The same punk album that tears down the walls between us and facing up to personal family trauma, homophobia, and the biggest restrictions imposed upon men by their preconceived standards of masculinity, is also the one where Joe Talbot yells 10 points to Gryffindor several times and makes it the hook. I was pretty keen on Idol's album last year. I only liked it a little bit, just a little bit. Brutalism's songwriting didn't just come in bursts of bass-driven aggression with just enough variance and riffage between each song to make it a bone-shaking ride. Its tackling of daring topics about Western society and specifically reactionary conservatism was so stark, yet so brief. Each lyric was so short and tongue-in-cheek, they came as their own little shards of firepower. One-liners with so much punch you could honestly recall them off the top of your head after just one listen. They're that hooky. I find this to be the separator between Idols and other punk revival bands. Not that their peers aren't impressive or to a decent level. I'm sure Sleaford Mods are still kicking around somewhere at his spoons. I'm just kidding, by the way, I don't actually know what that is. But Idols have so much momentum as a band and aren't just relying on pure noise and racket to get their point across. And I love that the emphasis is on the bass to drive their songs home.
We've embraced violence as a vehicle, as a tone with our music, to get people's attention.
As Talbot gives such rampant aggression on topics that you need to tiptoe carefully in order not to stumble over, and yet he seems to be able to put forward these tracks about toxic masculinity and the trauma of losing your children, topics that shouldn't be overlooked, and neither should Talbot's handling of these subjects very seriously when he needs to, and yet each hook has the right sort of cathartic delivery to come off well in an aggressive punk song, such as how well Danny Nedelko and Samaritans put forward really catchy melodic hooks, but in terms of delivery, Talbot has this genuine anguish and thunder to his voice that can't be mistaken. No, not at all. Also, I can't not mention that Stone Cold Steve Austin line, and I'm sure it got a lot of listeners too. Colossus might be just one of the best openers of the year as both a lead single and the first track to this album, showing that Idols weren't a one-trick pony and were more than capable of bringing their fury into new forms, such as the slow burning build-up of this song. You can really feel the momentum swelling like a pimple, and eventually it's going to explode. That's fucking gross, I'm sorry. And even despite that, through lyrics like 10 points to Gryffindor, there's enough comic relief to make you remember why Idols were such a good punk band when they needed to be. They reel you in with tongue-in-cheek sense of humor, they get you thinking about why they're saying these things, and then they pop open the can with that sweet and slightly umami flavor of sarcasm. And sure, some moments on the album break the fantastic pace that it had going for it, like the hypnotizing but rather lethargic June, but still has a likelihood of growing on me after several listens considering how tense and managed to make me feel anyway. And I think the album lacks a bit of an explosive conclusion despite the 5-minute Rottweiler biting and shaking you around like a one of them. It really promises to go further and a lot more aggressive with that style and never quite makes it, but then the record is over, unfortunately. But this unfortunately is very loose, as I don't know if there are many things on this album I'd want to fire stones at anyways. I know for sure this album is catching lots of critical acclaim, and I'm not going to pretend I don't see that fountaining appeal either. I was going to give this a 7 out of 10, but then I heard this line. I kissed a boy and I liked it! And honestly, I really think it's an 8.